Hum. Let us explore the essential meditation teachings hidden in Yab Yum Symbolism. Together, let us... Oopsie, I gotta push my timer like a big boy. Come on, but here we go. Together, let us relaxingly recite one of the most recognizable archetypes of Dzogchens. Great completion stage of Buddhist meditation. Oopsie. That's just odd. Here we go. Is the image depicting a nude woman the color of a cumulus cloud, sporting a tantric union with a naked man the hue of the infinite azure sky? Despite the pearl clutching of Karens, if Catholics get to erect statues of a scrawny naked carpenter being tortured to death, then yes, anti-yogis get to display meaningful images of two beautiful people making love. This image is known in English as the all-good ones sporting a tantric union. In Sanskrit as Samantabhadra, Samantabhadri, Karma Mudra. And in Tibetan as Kuntu Zangpo Kuntu Zangmo Yabyum. In his commentary to the Essence of Refined Gold, the 14th Dalai Lama of Tibet insisted that each Lama functions as his own sect. Bearing this in mind, let's explore an explanation of the iconography of this famous or infamous archetype. In this day and in this country, one could take literacy for granted, but in days of yore it was the exception, not the rule. Thus, it could come as little surprise that many teachers relied on symbols and archetypes to serve as mnemonic devices with which to remind folks of the teachings. Fortunately, most complex life forms on this planet have evolved to think symbolically, which made such a teaching strategy quite effective. The nudity of the couple reminds us that for mindfulness to be truly beneficial as we inhale, it must be vulnerable as well as passive, visceral, random, and fleeting. The translucence of Samantabhadra and Samantabhadri depicted in the finer paintings reminds us that for meditation to be truly beneficial as we exhale, we must physically relax that we may mentally release. As if that which we noticed during our previous inhalation could now feel as if it was as non-graspable as a vast empty void, like the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which although could be tantalizing to the eye, could feel utterly non-graspable to the head. Now, I think a better choice right here. One moment. And let's continue with this. The beauty of Kuntu Zangpo and Kuntu Zangmo remind us of the empathy, the source of real beauty. Let's That's a redundant preposition. There we go. Remind us of empathy, the source of real beauty. That is the effortless byproduct of noticing and releasing, in harmony with our respective passive inhalations and relaxing exhalations. The abandon with which the cloud-colored woman appears to sport in tantric union reminds us of the spontaneity that is tempered by centeredness, which in turn is symbolized by the stability with which her sky-colored tantric partner, or Vajra throne, sits, reminding us that the more we authentically practice mindfulness and meditation, the more our choices, utterances, and deeds could flow with the right or effortless effort of love's centered spontaneity. Let us not make the mistake of Yang's religious patriarchy, of deifying, worshipping, and supplicating a mere archetype. Instead, let us traverse Yin's path of spiritual matriarchy, allowing our practice to be inspired by the meaning of this iconography. That we could be the peaceful and loving people that our dogs already think we are. This is why the Buddha taught mindfulness and meditation. Excuse me. Having completed our opening lesson, it's time to shift gears. It is General Leia Organa's Saturday evening. Come, let us meditate like a Jedi after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I harnessed my autistic special interests and my ADHD hyper focus to spend about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that I could become your nerdy, neurodivergent guide to nirvana. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. Now, I made a mistake and I opened up the wrong text. Please bear with me. So I'm going to go to Documents and D and Dzogchen and V and Very Easy Meditation and this year and this month. I think it's this. Yes, it is. And I'm going to open up Very Easy Morning Meditation. Excuse me. Let's see. And I'm going over here to Sadhana. Kawabunga. Please recite with me. Whatever comes, may all beings notice, relax, and flow. Whatever stays, may all beings notice, relax, and flow. Whatever goes, may all beings notice, relax, and flow. Upon the tip of our left index finger, may we rest the great knuckle of our right index finger palms up in our lap. Doing so could gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to automatically coalesce at the crown region of our head. Excuse me. Okay, so every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we are wired to access the sympathetic nervous system ensconced within the middle third of our spinal cord. This bad boy has evolved to help us to notice in a special way, to help us notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly mind's antics, such as perception. You know, seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, and smelling, including emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. The most efficient way to practice mindfulness is to silently and mentally recite the three-syllable verb noticing during each inhalation. And the most efficient way to practice meditation is to silently and mentally recite the verb relaxing during each exhalation. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist recitation, Buddhist meditation, or Buddhist philosophy, do not hesitate to type your question in great detail in the chat window. I'm going to shift texts now, please bear with me. Together as a team, let us relaxingly recite an excerpt from the vast expanse of the diamond-like mind, composed approximately 1400 years ago by Prahevajra of the Swat Valley, translated from the Tibetan by Chokyo Namkai Norbu, translated from the Italian by Adriano Clemente, adapted and amplified by this MOOC what sits before you now. Together, being equal, there's nothing special to offer. Offerer, object, recipient, and intention being one, they are beyond being dedicated towards a specific intention. What does that mean? Let us continue. Well, here's where we can go. For those of us trained either in witchcraft or in shamanism or in ritualism, there's an idea of making an offering. So whatever offerer we notice as we breathe in, once we relax into our exhalation, that same offer could seem less graspable. Fleetingly, momentarily, they could feel non-graspable. The same thing could be said about the object of offering, the recipient of offering, and even the intention of the offering. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever intention we experience during our inhalation could feel fleetingly as non-graspable as a vast empty void. And so, although these four things are quite different, are experienced quite differently during our inhalation, during our exhalation, they smack of the same taste of emptiness. Let's continue, beginning with the word although. Although there are lovely objects that could be offered, since they already spontaneously and naturally exist, there's nothing graspable to array. Superficially, or we could say conventionally, we're not really making an offering. We didn't create the things we're offering. Whether we're offering a foot bath or drinking water or a flower or incense or a candle or music, we didn't invent these things. We didn't invent musical instruments. We didn't invent musical theory. We didn't invent candles. We're using things that already existed. So, but ultimately, as we relax into our exhalation, whatever offering we noticed during our previous inhalation could feel non-graspable. And so the idea here, the author's intention, is to show us the absurdity of making an offering. Fundamentally, making an offering with an intention is going to further mire us in the fundamental duality of pushing and pulling, of dreading and desiring. And these things are useful survival instincts intermittently, but when they define us, they dampen our lives and strip them of meaning. So one of the purposes of Buddhism is to help help our lives to be full of the peace and the love that makes life worth living. So let's recite this together 3 more times. Oopsie, it looks like I pressed the wrong button. Don't I feel like a silly head? Let's sing at Hep button 14. Together. Being equal, there is nothing special to offer. Offerer, object, recipient, and intention being one, they're beyond being dedicated towards a specific intention. Although there are lovely objects that could be offered, since they already spontaneously and naturally exist, there is nothing graspable to array. So let's explore the word spontaneously. Every time we relax into our exhalation, all that is without and within feels fleetingly non-graspable. However, during each inhalation, the reverse happens. And we could notice things with a freshness, as if we hadn't noticed them before, but the freshness of a child, or a puppy, or a kitten. So, although this pendulum-like process of noticing and releasing is delightful and can create the illusion that there's amazing things we could offer, ultimately the most meaningful thing we could offer is simply our practice. Now, yes, a good teacher charges no fees but accepts offerings, but their favorite offering is simply their students' enthusiastic application of their instructions. Let's continue. Being equal, there is nothing special to offer. Offerer, object, recipient, and intention being one, they are beyond being dedicated towards a specific intention. Although there are lovely objects that could be offered, since they already spontaneously and naturally exist, there is nothing graspable to array. Being equal, there's nothing special to offer. Offerer, object, recipients, and intention being one, they're beyond being dedicated towards a specific intention. Although there are lovely objects that could be offered, since they already spontaneously and naturally exist, there is nothing graspable to array. Way back in the 90s, when I began studying hardcore tantric ritualism, it struck me as basically the blending of Buddhism and witchcraft, and it wasn't far off. But there are many great luminaries, including Prahivajara, the author of this text, who feel that that blending Buddhism with shamanism is a mistake, for they are at classically cross purposes. There's nothing wrong with either one, but it's kind of like mixing a delicious salad, tangy and crisp, with your favorite dessert. It is a poor pairing. You want to have one than the other, not both in the same bowl on the same spoon or fork. Anywho, let's continue. Oopsie, let me adjust the camera here. Upon the tips of each of our 4 left fingers, we could rest the great knuckles of our right hand, palms up in our lap. Doing so could gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to automatically coalesce at the region of our throat that feels as if it tightens just before we cry. The essence of mindfulness is simply to notice, let me rephrase this. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we access a sympathetic nervous system ensconced within the middle third of our spinal cord. This bad boy has evolved to help us to notice in a very special way, to help us notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly. But notice what, you might ask? To notice mind's antics of perception. You know, seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling, and the like, including the full spectrum of human emotions, intentions, cognitions, recollections, and imaginings. The most efficient way to practice this mindfulness is to silently and mentally recite the verb noticing during each inhalation. Conversely, the most efficient way to practice meditation is to silently and mentally recite the verb relaxing during each exhalation. Good evening. Together, let us relaxingly recite the 50th passage of Prahimajra's vast expanse of the diamond-like mind. Being spontaneously present, it is beyond dedicating. Pure from the beginning, it is like nectar. The 12 sense bases are not to be particularly focused upon with special intention. Being spontaneously present, it is beyond dedicating. Pure from the beginning, it is like nectar. As we breathe in, well, let's refresh. Let's rewind. Every time we relax into our exhalation, whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation could feel purified, less harmful, less controlling, less defining. And therefore, whatever we notice, whether it was good or bad, interesting or boring, glorious or grotesque, can be as delightful as real or imagined bliss-inducing nectar. Like that first bite of ripe fruit you might have had after a 7 or 14-day fast. The very next inhalation after that, we spontaneously notice things. We notice things vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly. This is referred to as spontaneous presence. Let's continue with the word 12. The 12 sense bases are not to be particularly focused upon with special intention. Sturgeon's law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks, but not in the fun, tingly way. What is the suckiness of which Sturgeon referred to? He was referring, that suckiness could be explained as Yang's religious patriarchy. Being rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, cryptic, elitist, competitive, and cruel. When we are indoctrinated to be that way, we are naturally rigid and controlling, as I just mentioned, and we are prone to concentrate or focus. But that is antithetical to the Buddha's path of noticing vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly. Completely different. But what do we mean by the 12 sense bases? It's actually very simple. It's just the 5 senses plus our mind. So for instance, visual objects and our eyes that see them, auditory objects and our ears that hear them, sensual objects and our flesh that feels it, gustatory objects and our tongue that tastes it, olfactory objects and our nose that smells it. And additionally, our sixthly would be, the 6th and the 12th objects would be phenomena, emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. Phenomena and the mind that processes it. Together. Being spontaneously present, it is beyond dedicating. Pure from the beginning, it is like nectar. So we do not trivialize the process of mindfulness and meditation by using it as a way to coerce real or imaginary entities to give us what we want. That's shamanism, or that's witchcraft, or that's ritual, but that has nothing to do with the transcendence of the duality of dread and desire. Let's continue. The 12 sense bases are not to be particularly focused upon with special intention. So in other words, we notice things vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly. We don't choose what we notice. It just happens spontaneously. We don't choose how long we notice it. We can notice it for an exceedingly uncomfortable period of time or a mind-numbingly brief period of time, or someplace in the middle, together. Being spontaneously present, it is beyond dedicating. Pure from the beginning, it is like nectar. The 12 sense bases are not to be particularly focused upon with special intention. I can't tell you, once I learned how to do ritual, I was just so keen to manifest my dreams of avarice. And I wasted so much time and effort trying to do what I thought was Buddhist magic. And I wish I knew then what I know now. My journey would have been a lot shorter and happier. I wish for you a short, happy journey as well. Let's see. I'm going to tap button, oops, before I forget. When upon the tip of our left middle finger, we rest the great knuckle at the base of our right middle finger, palms up in our lap. We gently invite our real or imagined subtle energy to automatically coalesce at the heart region of our chest. So we already discussed how the essence of mindfulness is to silently and mentally recite the three-syllable verb noticing during each inhalation. But did you know that every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we have evolved to automatically access the parasympathetic nervous system, divided between the lower third and the upper third of our spinal cord. This parasympathetic nervous system has evolved to help us to support physical relaxation as well as mental release. That is exactly why we, silently and mentally recite the verb relaxing during each exhalation. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist recitation, Buddhist meditation, or Buddhist philosophy, do not hesitate to type your question in great detail in the chat window. Together, let us relaxingly recite the 51st passage 4 times. The intention of the mind, the donor, offers all through the power of noticing, vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly. In the accomplishment that arises from thusly noticing, balanced meditation is mastered. The ultimate offering we can give a real or imagined teacher is simply the practice of mindfulness and meditation as the dynamo that helps us to generate mastery of the remaining 6 folds of the Buddha's 8-fold path. In the accomplishment that arises from, let's try this again, starting with the intention of the mind, the donor, offers all through the power of noticing, vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly. In the accomplishment that arises from thusly noticing, balanced meditation is mastered. For those raised in a Judeo-Christian upbringing with a familiarity of Cain and Abel, there was a whole debacle over which was the optimal offerings to make. And that is found in many religions. It can be an offering of prayer, it could be an offering of bowing, it could be an offering of recitation, it can be an offering of whatever you want. But we're told the ultimate object, the ultimate offering is simply mindfulness and meditation, noticing and relaxing. The intention of mind, the donor, offers all through the power of noticing, vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly. In the accomplishment that arises from thusly noticing, balanced meditation is mastered. I spent many years devoted to a teacher who enthusiastically taught and sincerely taught from the worldview of being rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. I had the very good fortune of being so neurodivergent that most neurodivergent folk struggle with so many physical disorders and emotional disorders and like outbursts and meltdowns and stuff like that. And my outbursts and meltdowns were getting worse the more I practiced this stuff. And so I had the very good fortune to be intolerant of it. And I had to continue on my Dharma journey elsewhere to find teachings that help me to deal with ADHD and autism and all the comorbidities. I'm so very grateful that I had the opportunity to be taught what I've been taught and to stumble upon what I stumbled upon and all that kind of good stuff. But I do remember how small and compressed my world was when I was all caught up in meticulous ritual. And how much easier it is to have peace and to be loving now that I'm practicing from the perspective of China's Yong Jioshuan Zhui, the Swat Valley's Prahe Vajra, and of course North India's Gautama the Buddha. The intention of the mind, the donor, offers all through the power of noticing, vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly. In the accomplishment that arises from thusly noticing, balanced meditation is mastered. So let's explore this right here. balanced meditation. I gotta push this button, I guess. Whoops. Oh, well, don't I feel like a horse's ass? No one could see that the whole time. I apologize. That was me teaching in vain. But the word here is balanced. So many people think you either concentrate or you let go, but it's doing both. The late head of the Tibet's Nyingma order, Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche, taught that just as a one-winged bird cannot take to the sky, likewise we need both awareness and release. So let's recite this together once. The intention of the mind of the donor offers all through the power of noticing, vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly. In the accomplishment that arises from thusly noticing, balanced meditation is mastered. Once again, I do apologize for the error. I do so much juggling with this OBS system. Let's see. Now, many people can juggle far better than I, sadly. Let's see, I'm going to tap button 9. When upon the tip of our left middle finger, we rest the great knuckle at the base of our right middle finger, palms up in our lap. We gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to automatically coalesce at the navel region of our mid-abdomen. During our inhalation, let us silently and mentally recite noticing. During our exhalation, let us silently and mentally recite relaxing. We come now to the final recitation of the evening, or so let's make it count. Practicing, noticing, and relaxing briefly is union. Delighting in it is samaya. Samaya means a tantric vow or tantric commitment. Sitting in the method of awareness and release, this union is non-dually offered. Those who are terribly rigid and fearful and superstitious are all about vows and rules. However, before there were vows and rules, before the teachings were corrupted, the Buddha's path was only eightfold. It was super simple. 50% of the Buddha's eightfold path pertains to loving kindness. Kindness of intention, communication, conduct, and commerce. The more we practice mindfulness and meditation authentically and consistently, the more we cannot help but flow from the highest love, which is spontaneous and uncontrived. The source of this love is noticing and relaxing, delighting, practicing mindfulness meditation in a sustainable, pleasurable way is the ultimate fulfillment of all vows. The fourth enlightenment factor is joy. So if some grim-faced, cranky person says, "Oh no, you're supposed to be miserable during meditation," no, you're not. If done correctly, it's supposed to be pleasurable. Practicing, noticing, relaxing briefly is union. Delighting in it is samaya. Sitting in the method of awareness and release, this union is non-dually offered. Practicing, noticing, and relaxing briefly is union. Delighting in it is samaya. Sitting in the method of awareness and release, this union is non-dually offered. So I'm going to make a quick, what's it called? Adaptation. Practicing, noticing, and relaxing briefly is union. Delighting in it is samaya. Sitting in the method of awareness and release, thus union is non-dually offered. What do we mean by non-dually offered? I mean, it makes no distinction between the offeree and the offerer, making no distinction between the offeree, the offerer and the offeree, making no distinction between the offerer and that which is offered, making no distinction between that which is offered and the recipient of the offering. That happens viscerally and non-conceptually simply by practicing, noticing, and releasing. Whoopsie. Let's see. Let's go over here and tap button 9. We come to this evening's final meditation, so let's make it count. When upon the tip of our left little finger, this is a tough tongue twister, we rest the great knuckle of our right little finger, palms up in our lap. We gently invite our real or imagined subtle energy to automatically coalesce in the bladder region of our lower abdomen. The essence of mindfulness is to notice, vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly, during our inhalation, noticing whatever comes up, whether that which comes up is external or internal, physical or mental, pleasurable or painful, interesting or boring, glorious or grotesque. Thus, to practice mindfulness during our inhalation, we silently and mentally recite the verb noticing. To practice meditation during our exhalation, we silently and mentally recite the verb relaxing. Together as a team, let us practice this right now. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist recitation or meditation or philosophy, do not hesitate to type your question in great detail in the chat window. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 13 hours, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's morning meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.